What's up, everyone, and welcome to the Women's Rugby Treehouse. I am Julia. I am here, as always, with my pals Hattie and Sean.
Hey,
Boo! De Goate.
Canada's gonna win. Canada's gonna win the Women's Rugby World Cup. Oh, I did tell everybody that I wouldn't say that. Recently we had the semifinals of the Women's Rugby World Cup 2025. We're going to be impartial. We're going to cover everything equally. We've got tons of announcements. So to get started, let's talk a little bit about what we saw last weekend. Hattie, what did you see last weekend on your gallivanting across England?
Woo! In my lovely trip to Bristol, which, by the way, didn't have to deal with the incredible walk this time. I got the train down to the station, so that was fun. But first match, New Zealand versus Canada, it was historic. It was big. It was New Zealand's third ever loss in a Women's Rugby World Cup. They lost 1934 to our overlords, Canada. In possibly the best game I have ever witnessed in person. It was really quite sensational.
Possibly the best rugby game I've ever seen. I didn't get to see it in person. What I really take away, and of course this is already jumping into pod lore, but we got the game got, as if I was there. The game got the highest praise. Sean, what'd you hear?
my dad came out of the house to tell me personally. He was like, Sean,
He texted. He went as so far as to text you.
and text
And
me.
this is the man who years ago called up the Guardian.
He's a very hard man to
So
please.
I was gonna say, so if he cares enough to contact
To tell
you.
me. Yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna say to engage in conversation. There we go. To tell you.
Yeah, rugby historian. He literally said it was the best game of rugby he has ever seen. And this is the guy who went to the Barbarians versus New Zealand match when Gareth Edwards scored the try. He's been to so yeah, he's seen some games in his time, and he is convinced that it was the best game he's ever seen. He said Canada are one of the best sides he's ever seen.
This
They
makes me
are
so happy.
so fun.
It was an amazing
so fun.
game.
Isn't I would like to just really, obviously, I really don't expect anybody watching this didn't watch this, but if you didn't,
What were you doing?
Right, what were you doing that day?
Yeah, quite.
But also, we don't get to have a lot of fun in a lot of rugby anymore. They're absolutely fun. It's our sport. We love it. We're not saying that, but a match where, and we were talking about it in our chat as we were watching it, obviously minus Hattie who got to do it live, but just clapping like a baby.
Exploded.
Just
Ashton Gate has no signal, in case anybody has ever been.
That was fantastic. That is
so yeah, I would I would send my thoughts, and then all of a sudden the rest of the chat would get 10 things from me.
I think it was when the game finished, and then suddenly we had all these. Oh my god, what a try! We had a delayed running.
And I didn't know that. So I thought she was sending them rapid fire from the bathroom, and I was just wow.
That's why I started sending timestamps.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hattie,
Hattie, in person, I've got to ask you this, because one of the main things that just blows my mind with that match and with Canada was the ruck speed. And I saw it in Exeter when I saw them play Scotland.
Let's jump in.
But it just seemed like
what
so
was
good on
so
Friday.
mental.
What was it like in real life though?
So first of all, I will say I was sat on a padded seat, which
Ooh.
Yeah. Really posh, I know.
Yeah, very swish.
It's very comfy. So I had a really good view. But the weird thing is that usually when I've seen Canada, because I went to their quarterfinal game and I went to 2 of their pool stage games as well, is that they are so quick and the other side aren't. This time round though, New Zealand were also very quick, but
yes,
they just didn't seem as accurate. So because
there was a lot of handling when you are a team like Canada, and again, one of the other stats, I don't know if we're bringing it up, but it took 60 minutes for Canada to get a penalty.
That's insane.
Yeah, and I feel like that really highlights it. I mean, New Zealand is not slow. It's just when you put it up against an actual race car.
So a friend of the pod, producer Hugh, he had a graph that showed like they were basically equal when it came to ruck speed. I think the difference is that with Canada, they've got so many distributors, whether that be in the backs or even somebody like Sophie de Goate coming in as a distributor, that it kind of doesn't, like, they're flinging the ball out so quickly, but you can easily go to a distributor so it doesn't, like, it, yes, she's making that pass, but it's not like, oh, I'm just flinging it out to whoever. Like, she's flinging it out to somebody who can distribute the ball. Whereas
It's got a really good shape as well, though.
Right.
Yeah.
Which pointed this out in the analysis, and I thought that it was the most poignant for this point. It's for me, because I felt the same way. And it's not necessarily that every player is a receiver, or no, yes, it is. It's not necessarily that everybody is in position to do it. It's that everybody knows how to position themselves to do it. And
Yes.
unlike in what we consider traditional rugby, where you are lining up for a certain shape or a certain expectation, instead, it seems like what Kevin Rouet said in training was just what you're going to do is line up with each gap in the back line. And that way, no matter who gets the ball, there is a free break. And it worked almost every time. And to counter that, the only option that I see is you're going to have to either overcommit or erroneously commit, simply because you can't read minds. And that's what they're bargaining on. And that's why the speed works so well.
Yeah.
They just have insane instinct. It's like they just all have this incredible.
And it ends up looking like they have magic instinct. And then of course, yeah, of course.
I think when they interviewed Sophie de Goate, I don't know if it was after that game or whether it was a previous interview, but that's one of the things she said. She said from playing multi-sports.
Yeah, it was this one, yeah.
And of course, she loved rugby so much. She says they've been told to trust their instinct, and it just really shows because they seem like witchcraft. It's just insane.
I also think it's going to draw a really interesting parallel when they do play against Red Roses. Sorry, go on, Hattie.
Yes, I was going to say, again, this is another good parallel. The relationship that the players have with Rouet is completely
really
different
trusting.
Any relationship I have seen with a national team coach and their players, like whether that be in the men's game, the women's game, literally anything. You rarely even see it in club level.
If Alex Tessier isn't on the pitch, she's in the coaching box. Like,
but not even that. Like, if you watch some of their TikToks, whether it be player TikToks or the actual Rugby Canada one, like, it's not that the coaches are all sat in one certain part of the bus. Kevin Rouet is like hanging out the back of the bus with the rest of the players.
Yeah, I love that.
Like,
but it really does.
They're just friends.
It all comes back to like, right, but like, and I hesitate to say that that he's treated like he's one of the players, because I feel like that kind of flattens it. I really think it's just more like trust.
It's trust and respect.
Right.
It's trust and respect he has for the players as well.
Exactly. It's that you don't feel the same kind of starched relationship that you have with like a professor at university. Like, you're not going to hang out and be like, yeah, buddy. Like, I know we were talking about the socials, and I feel like I've been drowned in all of these very stupid, mostly dude comments of just, you know, they shouldn't be having fun. They shouldn't be laughing or smiling. But like, yeah, honestly, he is in the jokes. He does play around. He is in the TikTok questions of the day. Like, I don't know. It works on teams for women. I'm sorry that's how it works. They're still athletes. Most of them can still kick your ass. Whoever you are listening, it doesn't matter. They can kick your ass. But no, I think that's something, because, and I say this because the other running commentary that we have right now is that Kevin Rouet might be one of the best coaches on the planet. Well, doesn't act like any of the many storied, and by the way, we talked about it last episode and have talked about it before, but women's rugby constantly being a dumping ground for kind of B-grade men who are coaches. A lot of the time it's like some guy who had like a minor scuffle with leadership. We're gonna go ship him off somewhere. England has some of those coaches, actually. I found out. I know it makes people mad, so I won't drop names, but they've had some head coaches who kind of suck and then get sent off to Siberia to go coach. Novel idea for rugby. What if coach, not asshole? It's worked.
That's groundbreaking. That is insane.
It is. Think about I'm seeing so many people, and I love this. I'm seeing so many people talk about, mostly people who are from the men's game, who are new to women's, talking about how the vibe is so different. And of course, there are naysayers and pieces of crap who are just like, well, it's because it's not as serious or because like they're not as good. But really what it is like, yeah, we don't slag off coaches and other players and refs the whole time. We don't just talk about who we hate and what we hate. I know going into this episode it's gonna sound hypocritical, but we don't. It is like a happier place, and it looks like it works.
Bants in women's rugby is like, should we do each other's hair and like maybe play like a very small practical joke on each other before the game, not like actual crimes. Like in men's rugby.
And a lot of the time, unavailability isn't because extradited for crimes.
Wild. So when we look at the New Zealand-Canada game, a lot of people kind of said that New Zealand were shell-shocked a little bit, which I thought is I think it's kind of a basic answer. I would say they were shocked.
Yeah, it felt more like, I was going to say it.
I wouldn't say they were shell-shocked. Like, this is one of the teams that they play the most. Like, they should have expected it.
And all of the players themselves have said both before and after, they were like, it's not that we don't know.
Yeah.
We're not going into this like blind. It's just that the way that Canada plays is blinding.
Yeah. But I would say that there was two mistakes really. One is something we talk about all the time, which is that New Zealand are maybe not great at prepping for games. And then the other thing, but a lot of people, as we said, were talking about New Zealand being shell-shocked, but really there was kind of two major kind of issues that New Zealand had in that game. The first would be one that we've talked about a lot, which is that New Zealand don't prep very well. It was something we saw.
Which I do wonder if that's going to I wonder if that's going to be part of their postmortem. If you're going to see. I mean, there was already very low rumblings about bunting in general, but
yeah,
I'm curious to see.
Yeah, and friend of the pod, I'm going to keep calling her friend of the pod, Alice Soper. She actually had a really good kind of post-match reaction, which was like, she was disappointed, but she wasn't shocked. And I think
it was really good. I thought her reaction was really good. It's worth checking out on it.
It was very
Instagram.
measured.
I think it's on Instagram and
Instagram?
TikTok as well. Yeah, if you want to go check that out on Alice's Soapbox. But yeah, she basically said like kind of expected it, and I think potentially part of that is the prepping. It's something we've seen over the last couple of years, is that they can have an absolutely incredible game. For example, the game against Ireland, which they definitely prepped for after kind of the embarrassment, I'm going to say in quote marks, that they had last year. But they've been relatively underwhelming outside of that game. Yes, they've had Braxton Sorensen McGee, Georgia Miller, but like that's just two individuals.
Right. It's interesting, isn't it?
As we say on this pod all the time, no teams are just one or two players.
I don't think Black Ferns played terribly though.
Well, this is that's
the thing, is that
I thought they were pretty good, and I mean in the second half, they had more ball. Yeah, exactly, against the team.
In light of this performance.
Yeah, so my main point, and I don't know necessarily if it's because I was there in person versus watching it on telly, sometimes you get kind of a different view watching the two. But my main issue with the way they played in that game also kind of relates to the prepping, is that they just targeted Sophie de Goate.
Yeah.
And you could tell
she's kind of wild, honestly. I understand
it doesn't
that
work.
I was gonna say, I understand how good she is, whatever, all of that. First of all, she's off injury. Do you really think that's going to be the biggest threat? And yes, she was still a threat. However, first of all, the biggest threat wasn't Sophie de Goate in this game. It was Justine Pelletier, who you did not prepare for at all.
Pelletier was insane. Like she was just
she had the match of her life for sure. First of all, I think that was probably the match of Justine Pelletier's life.
Her husband, is it her husband, her partner, whoever?
Partner or husband, I don't remember which.
He was losing his mind.
I can't imagine, man. How amazing must it feel to like watch the person you love have probably the best day in their career. I can't imagine what it would have been like.
I don't blame him. I was losing my mind watching
I was going to say, we were all married to Pelletier that day.
So obviously
we messaged each other. Oh my God, Pelletier's so good. Oh my God, Pelletier's so good. She's so good. Sorry.
So obviously WAG is gender neutral. So Justin Pelletier's WAG, he was wearing the best outfit, the best WAG outfit. I'm going to nominate it for WAG outfit of the year, right?
Absolutely.
He had a cut-off denim jacket, very Canadian.
I was just gonna say, so Canadian. Go
Very
on.
Canadian. But the back panel was the back of one of her jerseys. Because obviously he wouldn't fit into her jersey.
I thought it was gonna be like a big head, but yeah.
No, but he also had
Yeah,
a mask
I get it.
of her face as well.
Amazing.
Man, other wags of rugby. Take
Which is
notes.
gender neutral.
That's
Take
what I
note.
said.
It's not MABs. It's not MAPS. WAGs. WAGs is gender neutral. Deal with it. But yeah, they targeted Sophie de Goate, and I just think it was they didn't quite so much in the second half, but in the first half, that was obvious that was kind of their game plan, and it was pointless because half the team are silver medalists.
And also, and I mean, not to pile on because it is still the Black Ferns. Obviously, they're still an excellent team, but like that's really
Poor.
like elementary planning to just target the best player. First of all, it's 15 players, and you know that being the world champions yourselves, like
it's wild to me. It's wild.
Also
this is
think
a semi-final of a World Cup here.
But I also think
when other teams, well, so I would ask the Black Ferns, when other teams play you, do you think that their entire plan is target Portia Woodman-Wycliffe? No.
But I also think it kind of says a lot about their mentality around rugby and how, yes, they're professional in name, and yes, they, their players have contracts, but I think it says a lot about their mentality and their coaching and everything else that they're not professional because they're using such amateur tactics, and their entire thought process is target the star player because that's assumed that they're not thinking as a team, they're thinking as a bunch of individuals.
Alice talked about this too, and there's a big thing, and this was probably a very big factor, but it's exposure to other teams. And yes, or exposure to play at the time, like so that you are constantly refreshing your view of your biggest rivals. It's fine that like it is great that we established Pac-4. Those four nations, we had the most trouble getting games. USA and Canada can't play each other forever. Australia and New Zealand can't just play each other forever. It's hard to get everywhere else. Absolutely. That's a separate conversation. However, Canada had 6 warm-ups or 6 or 7 warm-ups, and New Zealand had 4. On top of that, as you said, they aren't professional, so they aren't all playing together constantly all the time with no interruption. And picky for how great it is, New Zealand is a small country, and that simply doesn't. And it's also not currently a league. It's 4 teams, and it's currently not a league that attracts international talent. That's for a few different reasons, but compared to where the Canadians are playing, even if it's not their own league, and it's not, even then, way more exposure.
I just think it's poor. I think
my thing though is that, like,
I think they played well because it was the Black Ferns, but it was a poor overall. It was poor planning. It was poorly coached. I think the overall team performance was poor. Individuals were still quite good, but
which honestly does suggest a little bit of expecting that. Well, it could be one or the other. It could be that, like, deep down, not on the surface, and probably not the players, probably their office staff were like, yeah, but we are the Black Ferns, and kind of expected to still get it. Or the other side of that is you just didn't do anything, and that can't be acceptable.
I think it's partly the former, probably a little bit of the latter, but also the fact that teams are just getting better now. It's a bit
requires more. Like the preparation is at a higher level, and they just haven't done it.
The standards are getting better and better now.
I get the feeling that we're going to have this conversation after the final as well, because a lot of the pushback that I get from primarily England fans, whenever I make points about how England has had a lot of legs up that aren't just that your union did most investment 20 years ago, which is true, but no longer matters, and that you have the best programs or whatever. Well, first of all, because of a lot of contribution from everybody else, but otherwise, it's also believing that having all of that is the be all end all, and I think you're going to find that it's not, and that it does give you blinders. and you can coast to an extent. You can't coast forever. And honestly, if I can lob out a bomb, I do think that that's what a lot of England fans are mad about, is that this is the first time in a final when everybody isn't saying, oh, it's going to be the Red Roses for sure. This is over. They're so far ahead of everybody else. Nobody is saying that. Nobody is saying they're so far ahead of Canada that they can't
And there's
be
a lot
caught.
of people sort of saying, actually, they choke.
Yeah. And so that's exactly where I wanted to end with that thought was actually everybody's been watching you even closer, which you said you wanted. So we're watching you much closer and you're getting worse. And it's because everybody around you is catching up, which is all you've been telling us to do for 10 years. Just catch up to us. It's not our fault that we're so good. Just catch up to us. Just catch up to us. Canada, and this really is going to be a David and Goliath game. They had to fundraise to get here.
Which is ironic because the Canadian players are larger.
And they are larger. It's true.
Those are some good prairie genes in there.
I was just gonna say, and it's because they have much more room to spread out. So
they are massive, aren't they?
Alberta is a big province.
I didn't
realize until I went to the Exeter game, and I was like, I know I'm tiny, but they were
drop
just
in
like,
the comments how much you love hockey, and Hattie will have a conversation with you. But yeah, no, Canada makes.
Did I tell you I saw a very large man on Friday?
You often do. Go on.
I saw a very large man, and it said Bookaboom on the back, and I was like,
well, yeah, of course.
I was like,
her dad's probably huge.
Well, yeah, he used to play in the NHL.
I didn't know that. Oh, right. That was what you had
did.
Told
I
me.
tell it on this pod, or did I say it on David's pod? The story about Jeff Bookaboom.
It must have been David's pod because
it was on David's
favorite.
Yeah,
that's his favorite Canadian.
So, if you didn't watch the episode that was on Scrum of the Earth, maybe go watch it. It's me yapping for a bit.
It's pretty good.
But the best story I told on there, I'll tell on here because it's related to Tyson Bookaboom.
Please do.
So anyway, Jeff Bookaboom, if you're not into hockey, you won't know that name. Yeah.
Great Canadian name.
He is a 4-time Stanley Cup champion, 3 times with the Edmonton Oilers and then once with the New York Rangers. And he leads, No, he's second in the all-time Rangers penalty minutes.
You did tell us this. You actually told. I can't believe we just keep name dropping groups that not everybody. But it was actually you told us this in a large Discord that is dedicated to a fan of a certain rugby blogger, where you told this story, and then we all had to ask if that means that like he got into a lot of fights.
Yes.
And if we asked if he was the enforcer, and you said no.
No. So he would have got into a lot of fights, but he wasn't an enforcer because he
was good.
He was really good. Like he was like a mid-first round pick, which like if you don't know anything about enforcers, they're usually like they're literally picked because they can fight and they play like 4th line. He was like top line and
they're cannon fodder.
Yeah, they're cannon
enforcers
fodder.
Are cannon fodder.
He actually could skate and could fight, which is a lovely
and in
very
Canada,
rare.
That's all you need.
Yeah, but Tyson, the reason why this is slightly relevant, one, I saw this very, very large man and it said Bookaboom on the back, and if you follow me on Twitter, you will know that I'm a big Edmonton Oilers fan. So I proceeded to have like a mental breakdown about whether or not this is Jeff Bookaboom, and then he like disappeared and I couldn't see him again. It was very sad.
No, I was hoping that this would end a different way.
I know. But the reason why it's slightly relevant is that Tyson Bookaboom, obviously a rugby player, she went to college and played rugby and hockey. A bunch of people she played hockey with are now in the PWHL, which is the top women's hockey league. And she decided to play rugby because she thought it was more fun. And she'd be more likely to play on a national team.
That's fighting in rugby.
So I do wonder, because I've never actually seen it, but like how have Tyson and Alev not like hung out? Like I need the crossover.
That's a good point.
And Chrissy. There is so many former hockey players in that Canadian squad.
He must have hung out.
I mean the same way that there's so many former soccer players on the USA team. Like, yeah, that's what we do.
But yeah, if I don't meet Tyson Bookaboom next week, I will cry. Just to let you all know.
You will cry. And what you need to do is like the social media trend where it started in WNBA and then like kind of went around to other sports with the showing them the picture of their old self that they sign. Yeah, so
Oh, I
you gotta
love
get
that.
Femme Tyson.
Oh, it's the greatest photo I've ever seen.
Hattie has found, and so that was what I was just thinking. I was in my head, I was like, how am I gonna, because we don't know if we have the technology or not. I want you to know, listeners, all three of us are so fucking bad at Zoom. We don't know if we have the technology. We recently found out how to do emojis at each other. We don't know if we have the technology
share my
to show
screen
you a
really
picture.
quickly?
Right. Can you show the screen?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so
Hang on.
You can.
we haven't even figured out how to like
It's a big thing at the
do a
bottom saying
podcast with
share.
slides.
Can you
We
guys
don't
see?
even know.
No.
Hang on.
There we
Yes.
go. There we go.
Femme Tyson. That's crazy. That can't be her.
That is
I wouldn't
Tyson.
believe that was her. I wouldn't
Folks,
believe that was
coming
her.
out is so good for you. Not to turn this into Julia's queer theory again, but coming out is so healthy for you.
How do I stop sharing? Oh, stop sharing. There we go. But at least we've
We
figured out
this
how to do that.
roughly 11 or 12 episodes into the show. That's fantastic. Weren't we talking earlier? This is actually great inside baseball for everybody. Inside women's rugby Treehouse. Weren't we trying to do slides? What do we do with that? I'll take the question.
That's for later. That's for later.
Oh, it's for later.
We
For
won't
later.
spoil it, guys. But there is an upcoming episode which,
Oh, I know what it's
if you are
for.
audio,
My bad.
if you
I
are
do know
an
what it's
audio
for.
listener, just be aware that either the next episode or the following episode, we're probably going to recommend that you watch it rather than listen.
It's true.
Yeah.
And depending on who wins the Rugby World Cup, I might be drunk. We'll find out.
I think either team will be drunk.
I think either result, yeah.
Probably either, but one will be happy drunk and one will be
sad.
a different emotion drunk. A different emotion drunk. No, if I say sad, I will get the entire country of England will ban me, as if I'm not already banned for completely unrelated things.
You're welcome in Wales, so it's fine.
Yeah. Blah 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 blah. We've yapped a lot. I'm going to point out these stats because Hugh got very angry when I asked for them.
Please.
So from lovely Hugh, he gave us some stats. First things first. There were 230 completed rucks, 7 lasted longer than 6 seconds, and 175 lasted less than 3 seconds.
Fucking crazy.
That's
insane.
Is mad. That is insane.
It really makes my back hurt as a front rower because I know what I'm doing.
That's a lot of bending.
For 230 fucking rucks.
Yeah, that's a lot, isn't it?
But he also said,
and by the way, and that's why so many Canadian players, including like several in the back line, are like, I am happy with rucking. Let's go.
Yeah.
Because you literally can't go at that speed if you don't have people. You can just throw anybody in, and you can.
Their fitness levels are bonkers.
Off the chart. That's another thing that one day we're going to have to talk about probably after the final, but there is a marked difference, and it doesn't appear to have anything to do with funding. Or maybe it's having the right S&C coach, but they certainly don't have funding, and they are, I think, over England, the most fit team at this cup.
And then he also said his point about Canada is that their secret weapon is pick and goes. They do them at lightning speed, which is very true. I think if you watch like an England pick and go, it's a lot more like
even called.
Yeah, a lot of the time with the England pick and goes, they're very measured and it's quite slow.
Yeah.
If you watch Wales do a pick and go, it is literally at a snail's pace.
I was going to say,
you watch Canada do it, and like the ball has like barely touched the ground.
Mm-hmm. And they're really good at things like if they get tackled, the ball's on the floor and then they pick it up again. Like they're really quick.
I was just going to say.
I don't know what that's called. What's that called? Is that called something?
A jazz joist.
No, we tried figuring it out, and then the only way that I could figure out to phrase it is I was like, the thing Jazz Joyce does a lot. In fact, I was trying to count the number of times that happened. So I was texting with Hattie, and I was like, what is that? And then I was like, the thing that Jazz Joyce does, and that's
the Jazz Joyce.
And it took me 2.5 seconds to find video evidence of it.
Yeah. She does them a lot. Yeah.
But she is also one of the only players who does them in 15s, except for all of Canada.
But then a lot of the Canadian squad are sevens players, so it makes sense.
I was just going to say that actually speaks exactly to Hattie's point from earlier, which is that a large and we would be remiss, and there's nothing really to follow on here, but we would be remiss if we didn't point out that Canada does something that we on this podcast have historically debated and kind of fallen on the side of like, that's not ideal. And that is cross-pollination between 7s and 15s. Now, of course, especially watching a match like Canada versus New Zealand, first of all, you see a lot of it, and you see a lot of it successful. But I would say those are the two outliers. Genuinely, them and France. Them and France are the only ones who do it right.
I would say though, like with New Zealand, they've
And
really
even France, not so much.
Yeah, France not so much. They've kind of stopped doing it.
They've
I would say with New Zealand though, there weren't that many sevens players in this year's squad. I think it's probably like the least they've ever had. Like they have Portia
Yes.
Woodman, who's been playing 15s all year. They've got Georgia Miller, who swapped over, but that's kind of it.
Stacey Walker.
Stacey Walker, yeah, but she's
But
been playing
again,
league.
yeah,
Hmm?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Workhouse, yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know if she really
I only
counts,
know I only always remember Stacey Walker because I will say this.
she's great.
She played in the PR. She is great. Played in the PR7s here. That final, and I know I talk about it all the time. I'm sorry, guys. I went to the final. We get so little live rugby in America. But I met her at the PR7s final, and she's delightful. And she close personal friend Stacey Walker.
I love her. I'm quite jealous.
She's such
and well,
a sweetheart.
Yeah, she seems it.
She talked to literally anybody. Like even though like I found her in the food line. So like she had very much just finished a game and was starving, and I was just like, I'm so sorry. I just literally ran into you, and she was like, girl, it's fine. Anyway.
But then I would say like New Zealand are really starting to slow down doing it as much. Really Canada are like the outlier still doing it how it was being done 5-6 years ago. But they're doing it out of necessity. They're doing it because they have to.
They have no option.
You know, if you look at their players who are playing sevens and playing 15s, it's not the entire seven squad that go back into 15s. There are sevens players who are left out. They're not necessarily straight into the starting lineup. I think if you look at the seven squad, it's what Apps who's coming off the bench. It's
I don't know if
Asia?
Scarfield was injured.
Asia.
She's not. No, she was just left out.
Morgan. Oh, she just left out. Okay, that's very weird.
Simons, I think.
Yeah.
Flo Simons, yes. Pamphinapuisa as well, who got injured but was in the 15 squad.
But Scarfield has been playing 15s since the Olympics. Like,
yes, I don't consider her. I consider her a Jazz Joyce true crossover.
Yeah.
I think that's fine. As I've always said, even when I've talked about other players, people don't like me talking about crossover. If you put in a whole season in the PWR, a la Olive Kelter, that's fine. You are playing 15s now. That's fine. You can't come in and do 3 weeks of PWR, but anyway.
And several of the players who are sevens players, I think outside of like Olivia Apps, they were playing 15s in Canada anyway.
Yeah, and the social media post that they just put out where they were all shouting out their old clubs, everybody named a 15s club.
Yeah. So yeah, basically what we're trying to say is Canada do it out of necessity. I think if Canada build their team and build their program, you're not going to see it as much.
We say all of that to say that that's not a ringing endorsement. It's
Yeah. They're doing it because they have to. They're doing it because they are desperate to win this World Cup because they know how much it would mean to Canadian rugby. So
I wonder if they get like does the Sevens Olympic stuff? Do they get any more money or grants through that? I'm just going on.
What I wondered, actually. I don't have an answer for it, but I've wondered.
I'm intrigued to know because I think that kind of happens
because every Olympic
nation, so I think they'll get
every
money.
Nation's Olympic committee gets something.
Yeah, exactly. So I wonder if that's why as well. Like,
yeah, the sevens program I think would get money from the Canadian Olympic Committee.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily know how they're able to like pollinate that through or bring that through into their 15s program.
I've actually always wondered that, especially on the backs of two things. One, the Michelle Kang money for, I don't know how that was earmarked in the end. And then also this hypothetical, probably going to be real, between 250 and 270 million. Are you going to outline how that can and can't be spent? It would also really be great if we knew about that across the board between two codes, if we're going to continue the whole mixing and matching thing, especially because nations like Ireland, I would really like to know what the deal is there, because you have played fast and loose with, are we doing 15s this year? Are we doing 7s this year? I assume the money didn't go away. Where did it go? But
I did in my article about Canada, I did kind of write about like how it gets money, and there were also people kind of saying like, oh well, the 15s, they should be in kind of comments on the fundraising that Canada have done, people saying, well, it's an Olympic sport, why are they not getting money? And people kind of more in the know were saying, well, actually, because 15s is not an Olympic sport, the Canadian Olympic money couldn't go to them. It can only go to sevens. So it will pay for the sevens players' training and their contracts, but it won't pay for it. So anyway,
yeah, and
very complicated. And
that all has to do with people not knowing how Olympics are paid.
Complicated and weird, and just And in Alice Soper made a really, really good point as well, because there's going to be people in our comments kind of saying like, oh, give the Canadian girls contracts and blah 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 blah.
Well,
it's not that simple.
Well,
yes, it would be lovely if Sophie de Goate had a full-time professional contract from Rugby Canada. It would be lovely if she was able to do that.
If taking a contract didn't lower the quality of life for most of them, because I know you're not going to give them like a soccer star salary. I know you're going to give them enough to maybe squeak by in some parts of Canada, but the trade-off is you can no longer play in PWR. You have to get a new job. If you've established a family. Anyway.
Not only that, but like there is no program. Like the Canadian program generally is not set up for it. So
Canada is the only one that doesn't have a men's program to lean on.
Yeah, it doesn't have a men's program to lean on. There is no nationwide domestic program, men's or women's, to rely on. There is no framework. They are literally, after this World Cup, they're going to have to build from the ground up.
Which is mind-blowing to me in a way.
Do you win money if you win the World Cup? I know the men do. I assume we don't.
That's a good question.
Right?
I mean, I hope so.
I would hope
I would hope so too, but I'm guessing it's a paltry sum because nobody has enough money. Sure. I don't know. I've seen the spectacle you put on England. World Rugby has money. I don't know what the deal is, but anyway. I do wonder, and it's above all three of us because A, none of us are Canadian, and B, like it's something that clearly Rugby Canada have not wanted to like. I compare Rugby Canada to WRU in that WRU always wants to look like they're putting out information. I mean, it never is information, but they're like, look at all of these numbers. They're all wrong. They don't apply.
It's just waffle.
But on the other side, Rugby Canada simply doesn't tell you how much money they have. Like, I assume that
I don't think they know.
But and then I do wonder if there is any thought at all right now, because the one thing that I think about the most being an American and looking at Canada and looking at what we have differently, and like yes, obviously they're more successful. However, we have a national club competition. We have several layers of club competitions. They barely have that. They rely heavily on the U Sport program, on the U Sport infrastructure, which is just universities. Imagine if you had to build mostly off the back of Bucks. Like Bucks helps, but it's not how you're building your rugby program.
Maybe Shania Twain will donate a load of money to the Canadian.
So we joke, but like,
I mean, I'm only half joking.
But the thing I think actually would be relatively interesting, just to go back to hockey, because when you talk about Canada, you kind of have to compare a lot of their infrastructure to hockey. But if you look at, women's hockey in Canada is light years ahead of women's rugby. But if you go back sort of 10, 15 years, most of the Canadian women's hockey players were playing U Sports, which is, as we said, the university program. If you look now, most Canadian sort of university age students are playing in the US. So if the US, the NCAA rugby tournament kicks off, which it really is starting to grow pretty big, they're offering scholarships now. There's 15s, there's 7s. It's getting really, really big. If they're able to get Canadians over, the U Sports is going to sink.
I was going to say, if you can do that and then bolster WER, you can possibly capture talent and keep it indefinitely.
And especially with the way that the kind of eligibility
you have to make USA
works.
A place they want to live, but that's another.
With the eligibility laws in rugby being so different from in hockey, if they're, university is 4 years in the US, you only have to live somewhere for 5 years, and that includes education. So they literally have to do 4 years at university and then an extra year, and they're eligible.
Yep.
Yeah, that's mad.
We're being very hypothetical and getting a bit far, but
This is
Interesting.
so what's really interesting is this is the most we've ever like veered far off topic, but the most serious we've been.
yes.
So
And I think with that, we go to Canada's two colonial overlords. We have France versus England. Unfortunately, France lost 1735, whilst many a neutral had high hopes, and statistics would potentially suggest a France win. Le Bleu did not overcome the Red Roses. France were obviously missing their captain, or one of their co-captains, and they were also missing a star back rower due to bans. Whilst on the flip side, England were welcomed back last year's World Player of the Year in Ellie Kildane, who I'm going to say it as somebody who quite publicly has been bonked on the head and has suffered the consequences. I do wonder if her bonk on the head did like a manual reset, because she was by far the best player on the pitch.
Yeah.
She was magnificent.
She was back. She was, yeah, I was gonna say
she was in World Player
to,
of the Year form.
Yeah, she was.
Exactly.
Definitely.
I was gonna say she was reminding me of my favorite times that I've seen, and not that club is the same performance level as national, not at all, but her happiest and most fulfilled times at Quinn's, like that's what it reminded me of just like when she feels that like this is my pitch. And that's great.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so much fun to see her when she's like, this is mine.
She was doing like cheat code rugby, like she was running, and you're like literally watching her, and you're like, what are you doing? You either need to pass the ball or go to ground, and you're like, no, you don't. You're Ellie Kildane.
Yeah,
I guess you don't.
We said this in our last pod, though, didn't we? Because basically, she was out that last game, and England's attack looks really like
it looked
I don't know, mediocre
without her there.
And then she comes. Yes, and she's playing, and she's just doing all this wild shit. You take her out of that team, and I think that game against France, if she'd been injured, like England probably would have won, but I don't know.
I think it would have been a lot closer.
It would have been a lot closer.
It feels like two things are true. Both she has the capacity to do what she does, and the rest of the team relies on it. And when she's missing, not only do they not have that, but they don't have a plan B. In a very limited circus. Obviously, they have lots of plans. It's like one of the best things about their attack is that they do have several options, and they lay themselves out so that they have a lot of options. What we were commenting earlier is that, unfortunately for them, the Canada way of playing is going to predict all of that. But most teams aren't. Everybody is still playing the classic pod on pod. And England does too. They just have more options. And I feel like Ellie has been an X factor. I mean, we know she has, but we also saw what it looks like without the X factor, and I feel like it was way more different than I expected.
I also
think the match before.
I also think having Hannah Bottoman back is massive for them. I think she is. She's a huge. Yeah, she's massively key. Like everyone's going on about Meg Jones, and I'm like, yeah, Meg Jones is obviously a great player, but I don't know. To me, I think Bottoman is just almost as key to England as Ellie Kildane.
I feel, and I don't know why. I don't know what Sarah Byrne is coming back from. I'm a Bears fan, so I don't know what happened, but she just hasn't been prominent.
No,
and in
which
the
surprised
absence, me. Yeah, it surprised me a lot.
So I've thought about this quite a lot. One, like she's coming on for Maud Muir, which again, valid. Okay. I do wonder if they're purposely not putting Bots and Byrne together because they're both kind of superstar props. So
that was where I was going with it. Yeah. Is that it felt like is that there is such thing as too many brains working together.
Yeah.
And sometimes it was one of the coaches in the last week who said it, is that sometimes you don't have all of your top 15 players playing at once. You keep some back for the bench.
In fact, rarely. And I think that's very true of like, I think that sounds like such a simple thing, but it's like, that is very true in rugby. We talk about it all the time. We love to play our games where we say, what is your ideal, back three? What is your ideal back row? What is your ideal front row? And like, I think about fantasy rugby in this situation because like when you're new, you just go and you're like, who's highest ranked? I'll just do all those. But like that would not work They wouldn't work. They're personalities and they're people, but this is the fun part of rugby, is that you do have to get to know the players themselves. It can't just be their skill set. You can't just look at their box scores because it doesn't give you the whole picture. And I do wonder that, actually. Although, again, I did say I was a Bears fan, and that works really well at Bears.
It works really
could
well
just
for
be-
Bears. But
But I
yeah,
think
that's
it-
quite-
different.
it's
It could
more
just be a
about, like,
different. Yeah.
I think it's like,
But it's also a
having-
situation where they don't have Monure or So
Yeah, I think
makes
it's
sense.
about like having personalities and tempo, and like if you had Bots and Sarah Byrne playing together, and obviously international rugby's played at a much higher tempo, it's much more intense. If they're coming off at like 55 minutes, and then you're replacing it with Maud Muir, who she comes alive on a rugby pitch, but she's still very quiet, and Kelsey Clifford, who again is quite quiet. Like, I think they kind of need that balance. And I think Sarah Byrne coming off the pitch is like coming on as a replacement is terrifying.
And by the way, the best argument that we have is the South African Bob Squad. Like, it works.
Yeah.
It's
And
mental game as well.
Also, something we might have is, yes, Sarah Byrne and Bots obviously played together at Bears, but like it might be that you've just got combinations that work better, like in that front row.
And I was
for
just
the
going to say,
tactics that England have, and the Bears do play a different game to England.
Very different.
Very different.
And
so as far as sorry, go on.
Yeah. Oh no, I was just gonna say the other fun part of rugby, which is like the more people you bring in, the more different framework of person you're going to get. And there are players like Sarah Byrne who actually kind of, in my opinion, and I've watched a lot of it and I'm a front row guy, Sarah Byrne, in my opinion, I think, first of all, her rugby IQ is very high. My other favorite thing about her as a player is that she is malleable to a point. She is very good at not only playing a role, but changing the role as needed. She's changing on the fly, and that all goes back to rugby IQ. Not that the other ones don't, but when you are in a pinch, that's who you want. So of course you'd want her on the bench, even though it sounds ridiculous when you say it.
She's a bit like Sophie de Goate in that point, because she's kind of like, you can tell that Sarah Byrne's played in loads of different positions of rugby in her rugby life, and obviously Sophie has. So those players are just so malleable. I think malleable is a great way of describing it.
Yeah, and I'd say Sarah Byrne, we're not the people that have coined this. I think it was Squid Rugby that coined it, in that a tight head prop in the women's game is very, very different to a tight head prop in the men's game. And I'd say Sarah Byrne was the blueprint.
Yes.
Absolutely.
When I first saw Sarah Byrne play, my mind was blown. I just couldn't get over how brilliant she was. But there's so many really amazing props in the women's game. I would say, sorry, men's, they're kind of more outstanding. That's the that is, you're right. That's the model of it.
But that's the thing, and I think that was a really good point to hammer out when Squid brought it up, when we're bringing it up now. And I think that pivoting on that, it kind of it's why when you watch women's packs versus men's packs play, they do look a little bit different. In men's, I've always found that like you want your guys to be the most specialized in their position that they can be, and your main focus is being better than your opposite number guy. Or maintaining your skills or building your skills to get there. Whereas it feels like, especially lately, and especially these young players, and I think a lot about the backs for England as well, where it's like they're playing Pokemon with skills, where they're like, can I be a lock that kicks? That's Canada. But in the women's game, we are doing stuff like that.
Don't let Hannah Bottoman hear you. She wants to kick.
Bots wants to kick and has been practicing. I said I'm a Bears fan. I've been watching her practice, and she was learning from Amber Reed, so she's gonna get it. And Snowy was also there. But we have that. We have 9s that jump in a line out. We have 14s that jump in a line out. That's just South Africa. I think we're going to have to wait a few years to see if there are market benefits.
Hey, Zachary.
One over the other. KZ, that is just by nature of the age that she was when she started in rugby, and how massively it has progressed in just the time she has played. And she talks about it a lot in interviews. It's fantastic. We've said it a million times, and of course we're going to be the ones to say it, but it's a really good time to get into women's rugby if you're already into men's rugby anyway. I promise you it's more accessible than you think.
If you think that Dan Sheehan is a freak of nature, can I please introduce you to women's rugby? Because trust me,
I was going to say, we have so many.
If you think that a
That's a good
hooker
one,
on the wing
actually.
is fun,
That's-
wait until you see a goal kicking lock and a prop on the wing.
And who was it? Who was it? Was it Amy Cocaine where they're like putting a hooker on the wing and it's like, well, Amy Cocaine came from the wing.
Yeah,
Dog.
yeah.
No.
I think she played 8.
She plays everywhere.
Who were they talking about then? It was somebody that would surprise you. And
Oh,
hooked.
Dervla Nicobard started on the wing.
Well, we know Derville Nicobard, but they were talking about her because they don't know ball.
Neve Jones started as a centre.
I mean, Flaky George was capped on the flank.
And she started off as hooker.
And she's now an outside half.
Off as hooker.
Yeah.
And that's just normal in women's rugby.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what, honestly, and it would go off on another tangent, but I will just say that it is a testament to how much rugby has embraced that rugby is literally for everybody. But it's so interesting that we have collected so many different types of athletes that we are able to cross train like this in relative infancy of some teams. If we're talking about Canada, I mean, Sophie de Goate took it upon herself to learn to kick, but Emma Taylor was like, "Oh, that looks cool. I'm gonna try that." And now, main kicker
Sophie
for
de
the
Goate
captain.
started off playing 10.
Yeah, she did. Yeah, she did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that tracks.
Yeah, it does. It does completely. Yeah.
Although I would not trade Taylor Perry right now. Not with how. God,
No, but
I think she played
very rare. She's a rare underhyped 10 in my opinion. But go.
Yeah. Like Sophie de Goate, yes, she has the skills to play 10. However, one, she's 6'1".
Come on.
You should be a forward, babe. Secondly, her parents. She was born to be in the pack.
Giant Dutch.
Well, her dad played second row. Her mum was an 8.
I was going to say you would know this. I was just going to say we're both of your parents forwards, but yes.
Yeah, her mum was an 8.
Rare. You rarely see that in straight couples.
She's not slow though.
No.
When she made up
when you're 6'1" and one of your steps is 3 of mine.
But both of her parents captained Canada in 7s as well.
Of course they did.
That unfortunately, I hate.
They're just overachievers now, aren't they?
I do have to take a little bit away from them. When you were playing, it was probably easier. But
her mum was the first ever captain of the 15s team and the first ever captain of the 7s team.
That's really cool. They are massive overachievers. I love them.
I know.
Yeah, really. I like how, by the way, we were talking about a completely different. I mean, Canada is going to be playing England. We were talking about England, so that
we're talking about England.
However, France, I feel, way more put together performance. I'm really disappointed they lost this one only because I feel like
I thought they did all right.
They finally pulled it together.
That Pauline Bourdon-Sansus was at one point going to commit a crime.
Oh,
I love that girl.
I love her so much.
I love a little psycho. I really want. Okay, so here's my thing. I really, 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 more than anything in the world, want to see PBS against Justine Pelletier. I want to see that.
Oh yes.
I want to see them do it, and I want it to be a ref that does not speak French. And I want it to be the worst things you've ever heard between them.
That's hilarious.
I want it to be the worst things you've ever. Oh, by the way, and so Justine Pelletier played in Elite. Oh, I don't know if she still does. I think so, but she certainly played against PBS. And I should ask
once
my
again. Why this is it's just an insult that we could not watch that on television.
That's what I was gonna say is I have to ask my French friend. I forget what network it is, but why why can't I see
Canal
that?
Plus?
Oh, is it Canal Plus? That actually sounds really familiar.
Yeah. Just rude.
It does make me excited for France versus New Zealand. It's two teams that don't get to play each other very often. I feel
and both
that
will be very angry.
I was gonna say very angry, but they are two teams, and in fact, possibly the top two teams that I would think of. That if asked, what team would you not want to play angry? It's those two.
Yes, agreed.
Which I'm very excited about as a spectator. I'm very excited.
I thought the scoreline in the France-England game
flattered England. Yeah.
So it 17-35, and not that dissimilar to New Zealand-Canada scoreline, 19-34. But I feel like I don't know.
I was going to say Red Roses win. Yes, I don't know about it. For me, it felt like a one-try game.
Yes, yeah, it did.
Yeah.
Because the Canada-New Zealand game felt like New Zealand got pummeled,
Yes.
Whereas this game felt really close.
It felt really close. It did. It's wild, isn't it? It just goes to show how
And-
great rugby is when you can have two games like that with similar kind of
Exactly.
score lines, so different.
And it also gave us a bunch of data for our Hattie in the lab, Julia and Sean kind of hanging out in the lab eating sandwiches, while Hattie does the numbers. It gave us some more data into our PBS coming off thesis.
Yes. I
What it
didn't know
does
where
and
you were
doesn't
going
do.
then.
Oh, yeah, you're cooking it up in the lab, picking what number of time.
77.
It's 77. Okay, well, so, and I said this in chat as well. Do we think she's injured?
No.
I think so. Why would you come off 3 minutes?
She did look quite, she looked a bit dejected.
She did.
Yeah.
She did.
And
So
she was starting to
so-
get a bit tetchy.
She was getting very
so,
patchy.
So that was going to be the other half of my question. If not injury, do we think that it's?
I think it's
doesn't make sense.
personality.
I was going to say, do you think that it's temper? But then why
Could
would
be.
it be so uniform? Like, do you really think that she only has 65 minutes before she pops off, and that's why
I
she always
think
comes
it's
off?
more like political.
Do you
I think.
Okay. I was gonna say, I don't think that the coach is sitting there way up in the box reading her facial expressions, is all I was going to say. Is that I don't think they're like, oh, she's too mad now.
I think it's political. I think
Why
I
would your
assume,
politics be to lose?
What I mean is, I think I don't necessarily know if she gets on with the coaching staff that well.
I mean, that has always been in the back of my mind.
She's obviously very good friends with Gail Hermé, who we have a running theory does not get on with them.
And isn't it weird that her wife isn't in the coaching staff? It's very weird to me, considering that she was one of the best nines that France had ever seen until her wife. And is a coach by day.
I would love to be a fly on the wall with that team. A fly that could speak French.
With Duolingo. I was going to say with Duolingo.
Yeah. Because I don't know, there's just something
something
missing
up. And
French.
By the way, we have been, and to defend ourselves, we have been hypothesizing this since last Six Nations. We have thought this for a while.
We absolutely have the players to be the best in the world.
Yeah.
Oh, yes,
and when you look at,
I don't know why Ortiz is still there.
We said this before when we talk about, their under-20s are the best in the world. There's no under-20s women's championship, but there is a Six Nations. They absolutely trounce
and they destroy
everybody.
They haven't lost in something like 2 years.
Yeah, they're brilliant.
They are absolutely mental. They bring through those under-20s players, but
what poison do you have in camp that is doing this?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. And from what we do see of the Elite On, which is not a lot, it looks incredible. So what is going on in camp where everybody looks like they want to jump off a building?
But really, and like we say that and it's funny, but like if you watch, and France has been great. First of all, my French pronunciation is terrible, and now I have French friends. But it's au cours du something. Anyway, it's the heart of the team. Or spirit of the team, I guess. And I'm probably wrong. Drop it in the comments. They do a weekly thing. Like, we have asked Wales why they stopped doing theirs, but a lot of teams are doing their weekly, like, here's social media of what's been happening in camp. Theirs has been consistent, which is awesome. We keep seeing images of these girls looking like they want to kill, not each other, is what I'll say. They look like they want to kill somebody who's in the room, and it's not each other, is what I'll say. And I'd like to know why.
Wouldn't we all?
And somehow they had better / more territory, possession, line breaks, offloads, carries, meters, turnovers won, and passes, and yet they just didn't string it together.
It was so frustrating. They should have been like 14-0 up at halftime.
The only
England
player that played better than a France player is Ellie Kildane, who managed to beat 13 defenders. No other England player beat more than one. Thank you, Hugh.
Which was fantastic for Ellie, and really damning.
But that was
damning
her.
For everybody else.
That was her playing as an individual, which is something I've critiqued her for in the past, is not necessarily being a team player. But if she hadn't have been there,
being a team player, but it's that she can't rely on the people next to her.
Which is what she does at Quins, and it drives me absolutely out the wall.
Yeah, me too.
And you know what? It's
I love
interesting you
Quins.
say that. It's interesting you say that. Well, so because we like Quins and because we're so excited with everything that's coming through and all the signings that they've made since last PWR season, but before this cup. So these are all people that we've never seen play for Quins, but we know they're heading there. I'm really interested to see if that maintains, because I think that probably, so Ellie is also young. I think probably as Ellie grows in her game, she's probably going to lose some of that feeling like she is an island. And you know, we don't know necessarily how she felt about the backs at Quins. And we don't really know. I mean, we know the publicity stuff of how she feels about the other backs at Red Roses, but I am curious to see. I don't know. I want to give her the benefit of the doubt because I think she is a big ball nose. For whatever else we can say, girl loves rugby, studies it all the time, is always watching it. I firmly believe if you care about the game that much, you don't want to be like, I don't know. I'm trying to, I can't think of like a men's player. I don't know. Is Louis Rees Zammit like a ball hog? I don't know. Someone like that.
He's
so I don't know.
No.
I'm trying to
She's
think of
better than
somebody.
him.
I'm trying to think of
She's
somebody
better
who's
than
a
him.
ball hog showboat. Do we have a ball hog showboat? I can't even think of one.
The
in the
only
Olympics.
person I can even
Because
like
I don't think that that's what she
vaguely
was.
compare her to, but it's more on ball knowledge and also publicity.
Okay.
But they're not the same player really, and they don't necessarily have the same personality. Would be Lee Halfpenny, I think, in terms of like
Okay.
they had a lot of publicity
I was just gonna say, like,
and they were kind of
absolute
like
rock
star
star.
15s, but otherwise they don't. They're not really alike at all. I literally can't think of anybody in the men's game.
I can't think. I think Reece
She's
Zammit is
more.
probably a close one, but I don't think
She's
like,
far more talented than
she's
he
far
is.
better than him.
I was just gonna say she has a lot more skills, and I feel like she is hamstrung. This is not by herself, but hamstrung by like, it sucks to say, and I'm not pointing any fingers. I do not have backline knowledge. My ball knowledge ends around 9 or 10. But if you are that good and you know a ton of ball, I have to imagine that you don't want to be an island. You don't want to be a one-person back line. So it has to probably come down to, do you trust the people around you? And by the way, we've talked a lot about the shifting back three for the Red Roses, and it could very much just be that it's hard to find a rhythm or hard to make decisions on the fly when you don't always know who you're going to be next to. I mean, of course, you have to have the improv skills if you're going to play 15, but
I would also say, like, she is probably the most likely of that Red Roses team to make a code switch. She's a big name. She
tried, unless you mean to league.
To league.
Oh.
League? Really?
I think if
NRLW
came through, if NRLW came through with a big contract for her,
okay,
especially if it was after the Women's British and Irish Lions, I could see her doing it.
She needs to bulk up a bit.
Do you think she would do? Okay, so we're really hoping that it doesn't happen, and I'm really sorry to even say it at all, but only because it technically still exists. Do you think that she would go to that fucking Saudi oil money ass Rugby 360?
No,
I really worry. I worry that it would, only because she's young and you can't make a lot of money.
No, but
Yeah,
then also she has
I just worry it would be a draw.
She's got her big Canterbury deal.
True.
Yeah.
True.
I would really hope she wouldn't.
I was gonna say, but I don't think she would lose it either. I don't know. I hope not. Ellie, fan of the pod, we know. If you're listening, please stay in 15s. We think that you are a boon to the industry, the 15s industry. Please stick with it. We promise everybody else will get better. You're gonna see some of them this week.
And finally, just on our little bit of France versus England, interesting stat is that the France viewership was higher than the England viewership. So,
and you know what? This goes right back to, why don't we see more Elite One? Why?
Yeah.
And
I'd
also
love to watch it.
Clearly, everyone wants to watch it.
Our note says
rugby.
England, but I'm assuming it's UK wide. It was whoever was watching on the BBC. So, all of the UK?
Well, not necessarily. They can. They can.
Oh, they
split
can.
it out. Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
curious if they can actually inside ball
yeah.
knowledge, please.
Yeah.
Or not.
Yeah. But anyway, it was higher in France, 3.8 versus 3.3. And there's going to be somebody being like, well, there was, there's more people in France. Barely. Barely. It's negligible. And I mean, they were competing against top 14.
Truly
England didn't
negligible.
have that. So
Yeah, and which top 14, which I mean, it's for a completely different pod that somebody else runs, but top 14 also like routinely has insane viewer numbers. So
yeah.
please consider that when you judge what we said.
So as we move on to the final, obviously it's the final and the bronze. The bronze, I don't know. Neither of them like to prep. They're both very jouet, do whatever you want. I couldn't tell
but
you
that means
what
it's
was going
gonna
to
be
happen.
so fun.
It's going to be
I hope
so
it'll
fun.
be fun
to watch.
I hope it'll be fun.
But
Sometimes
I couldn't tell
those-
you what was going to happen.
Sometimes
No,
those third
and I
place
definitely
playoffs
don't
can be a little bit of a because the teams
That
are
was
just a
what I
bit like,
was.
ugh,
That
we've
was what
lost
I
the
was gonna
semi,
say.
we should be in the final.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. But I hope it'll be good.
No, but well, one key thing: this will be Marine Ménager's last game.
And I don't think she's had a great tournament.
I don't think she's had a
No.
great tournament. I say that because
I hear
like she's the
fans.
captain. She's said she has said she's retiring after. Marine has not, but
She's got
okay.
her head injury.
Right, she got her bonked head, but you're the exact same age. I don't know. I don't know what's gonna happen there. But either way, like I'm gonna go out on a win. I'm gonna go out with some hardware.
Part of me thinks
Not
that the Black Ferns will go out and just like annihilate France.
run
Yeah.
right. That's what I fear.
But then France beat
I
New
do
Zealand
too.
not too long ago.
Yes,
When
France
though?
can
When
do
was that,
it.
by the way?
WXC.
Oh yes.
If France
Yes.
turn up and they're in the mood for it, then
Yeah. I don't know.
no, I think I really
No.
can't read that one.
I have no idea. And then on to the actual final. Despite only being freshly back from injury and playing in the second row rather than the back row, Sophie de Goate is putting in one of the best all-round World Cup performances ever. I've got a line of stats for you if you're ready. I may need to pause
We
to
are
take a breath.
So ready. And well, while everybody pauses to take their breath, consider, and I think we are allowed to endorse it because they do sponsor us because they're Hattie, the Rugby History Project, has made Sophie de Goate shirts. They're fantastic.
I think
Be
they're
sure
still
to get them
25%
on.
off.
They're
Yes,
still 25% off on Redbubble. Get them on black shirts.
Yeah.
Right.
Sean wanted the white.
I like the white.
Yeah, but so if viewers see, and of course for audio, your son, the Sophie is written in white, so people will just see de Goate, which for me
Oh.
is fine. I did remember to actually get it.
There is
Yeah,
a little
see?
goat as well.
There is a
There is
little
a little
goat.
goat, and
She
that's
can't-
just a little wink from Hattie to you.
I love it.
Yes, please look at the D, Sean. Look
Oh
at the
yeah,
D
yeah,
in
yeah.
de Goate.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
I do design them to be on black, but unfortunately Redbubble won't let me have the option to only put them on black.
You're right. However,
Excellent.
it does tell you, which I appreciated and I had never seen before, that it
I
tells
put it
you
in
that
the
it's
note.
designed for a black shirt.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
Yeah, because I wrote that.
Well,
Let's have my
sounds like a
stat
smart
line.
lady. Stat line, please.
Stat line.
We were letting everybody catch their breath.
I'm going to have a quick drink before I do so.
Please.
And I'll just pose with this again in the
That was why I was making everybody look at it.
Are we ready?
Yes.
Right. 3 tries, 20 conversions, 1 penalty, 4 assists, 85 carries, which is the most in the competition. 13 defenders beaten, 82 rucks in total, 5 turnovers won, 60 passes, which is the 5th most in the Canadian squad and the first of any Canadian forward. 11 offloads, which is the most
Again,
in the
not
entire.
the scrum half.
No, 11 offloads, which is the most in the competition. 33 line-out takes, which is the highest in the competition, with the next being Masami Kawamura from Japan at 19.
Are her stats like more than the Welsh team combined in
Yeah.
3 games?
Yeah, probably.
Oh my god! Wow.
But it's the fact that she's topping things,
know.
right? And like
Yeah.
she's also, I think when I looked, she's like the the second most point scorer, like second top point
Oh
scorer.
yeah.
Yes, and
think
I
so.
would also love to point out. Oh no, actually no, that's not too amazing. I was gonna say the only one. It's 59 points right now for Braxton Sorensen McGee, 58 for Sophie de Goate. And then I was gonna say that's amazing, but Braxton Sorensen McGee is at 15, so not that amazing. But she kicks. It's because they both kick.
But Braxton Sorensen McGee is the top try scorer as well.
Yes. Oh, actually, yeah, I didn't get that too. I was just looking at points. My bad. You're right.
Mm.
Dang.
So that will be included in her total.
Yes.
Mm.
But yeah, when you consider she's topping, it's not just like, oh, she's putting up these massive stats and like it's across the board. She's topping stats that like forward shouldn't be topping.
Exactly. That was what I was going to say. And she's doing
And
that
she's
wearing
doing and she's topping things that she should be topping, like line out takes.
lineouts money. Yeah.
She's like joint second in lineouts stolen. The joint first is Rosie Gallagher and Abby Ward. They have one more than her. It's overall mad.
Mm. Yeah.
World Player of the Year.
Absolutely should be World Player of the Year.
This is probably
It'll be farcical if she doesn't win it.
This is hands down the best all-round World Cup performance I've seen from any player ever.
Yes, same.
Man or woman, by the way.
Yeah. Well, I don't see forwards. I don't see men doing line-out takes and kicking goals in 2025.
No. I think the last player to do that was John Eales in 1999.
Yeah.
Wow.
They did win. Australia did win the World Cup that year as well. So he won the World Cup.
That was probably right around when Sophie. That was probably right around when Sophie de Goate was literally born because she is 26.
Yeah.
That's insane.
I know, it's mad, isn't it?
She was born on 30th of June 1999.
Oh, there you go. And I think the World Cup was October.
Yeah, there we go. So she saw that and she took it personally.
Yes, yeah. God, I went to those games.
He's like, look at that.
That makes me feel really old.
Do you want to know what? She's got two middle names.
Yes, she's very
Big
Dutch.
Goat.
Danielle Johanna de Goate.
That's a very Dutch name.
It's a very Dutch name. Sophie Johanna. Yep.
Yeah. Her mum's from Alberta. Fun fact for you all.
Her mum's from ABBA.
Alberta.
I thought you said ABBA. Like ABBA.
Okay.
You got me very excited for a split moment.
Oh my God, you're getting Sean going. Are we gonna do stars?
Oh, I've got one more thing.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. Funnily enough, I wrote that above where you wrote Julia was here on the
You might have added it after I added that because
I didn't. No, I didn't. The last time they faced each other was in WXV1 last year, which Canada won 21-12. However, Jess Breach has infamously said ever since this is the first time she was ever worried that the Red Roses would lose a game. Canada,
which I both love and hate to hear.
Yeah. Canada were also England's opposition in the last England Rugby World Cup win, which is the only time Canada has been to a final, and that resulted in a 21-9 England win. However, in that same tournament, they'd also drawn. So, weird. So yeah, who knows?
Yeah, that WXV match was interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah. That was the Ellie Kildun
game. Oh, yes. Card. Oh, yes. I forgot about that. How could I forget? Yeah, it was an interesting game. Canada could have won that game.
And they were out Sophie with good. They were without Sophie de Goate. Yes. We say yes, one player can't win a game. No, however, Sophie de Goate is Sophie de Goate.
I think Canada are a better team now. I think they're more of an all-round team than they were.
It can also be argued that also leadership qualities trump some of what I often say about one player doesn't win a game. If it is also a like major leader and buoy of all spirits, maybe.
If you having the goat back, you know, it's like the Las Vegas Aces playing without Asia Wilson. It was a nice little. We got hockey in there. We're getting basketball in there. We've vaguely got a bit of football in there. We're just going to cover all the women's sports today.
We're nailing all of it. Everyone loves it when it happens.
Yeah. So, shall we go with our what should we start with? Try of the week?
Peltier's
I like how
was my
yeah,
favorite.
it's gotta be the Peltier everybody fake out.
Mine would have been if it had actually happened, but it didn't happen. But I'm going
Oh,
to
I
say
thought you were gonna say if
hypothet-
that try happened. I was like, it happened. I
Yeah,
saw
I was
it.
like, did I imagine it?
my hypothetical try, because I really wanted it to
Hypothetical
happen,
try of the
but it
week. We
didn't.
love a theoretical try.
Would have been if Sophie de Goate had actually made that break where Portia Woodman-Whitcliffe was chasing her down.
Oh,
Well,
yeah,
she did. But she is unfortunately 6'1" of woman, and Portia Woodman-Whitcliffe is her.
well,
But by the way,
it was just wonderful.
when you're a lock on a fast break and it takes Portia Woodman actually like putting in legwork, I consider that you got the break. That's a line break.
But Sophie de
Sophie
Goate did get a try, and
Yeah,
that was my try of the week.
and Portia didn't
Also
tackle
good.
it. Did you see that? Portia completely
Yeah,
backed
it was
out
one
of
of her
tackle.
very rare missed tackles. Yeah.
Well, no, I don't even think it was a miss. She just kind of like was like, oh, she just scored. Like she just let her.
You're right.
Like,
You're right.
which kind of surprised me a little.
I know we're
Don't shade
trying to
Portia,
wrap
but-
up
I
here.
mean, and I was gonna say, in fairness, she was on the wing that day. So
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
But,
she was coming across. I'm not saying that like it was a
Oh.
missed tackle, but it was I don't know, like she just sort of was like, yeah, I'm not tackling that.
yeah, you know what? I'm not. No, I think that's good game management. At one point, you have to like cut your losses, and I think that's probably when I would cut my losses.
But
Sorry, go on.
I know we're trying to wrap up here, but I would say something that I thought was really interesting is that New Zealand didn't try and chase down any of Canada's kicks.
Yes, that's true.
Called respect. I haven't formed a good opinion, so I'm like not talking about it. And also, that's not something that I know very well. But I don't love that we're doing the running down the kicks now. I don't know. Whatever. It doesn't matter. It's so.
But I just thought it was like,
Fashionable at the moment, isn't it?
it's very
It's
fashionable.
just really fashionable.
It feels. No, I mean.
But the thing is, they
like,
did it against
rugby definitely
Ireland.
goes through trends.
Oh yes, they
know.
did, didn't they? Yes, you're right. I forgot about that. That's
And-
interesting, isn't it? Maybe they've just given up.
And somebody did it against.
Was it
Rochelle,
Ireland?
didn't
No,
they?
no. They didn't do it against Ireland because Ireland didn't score. It was Ireland did it to them.
Ireland did it.
South Africa, was
Yes.
it?
Ireland did it to somebody where they came and they actually got so much that they came and kicked the ball off the tee. And I was like, all right, that's pretty funny.
And then we won't mention Fiji doing it to Wales.
Next up, we have got Game of the Week. I mean, it's obvious.
I mean, that's
It's got to be the best game that we've ever seen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was Canada. New Zealand were also there. And then finally, we've got Player of the Week.
Is it annoying if we say it again? Oh, actually, no, Sean, you're right. Sean, you tell it because you're right.
hard. Peltier.
Oh, I thought it was going to be Peltier.
Sophie.
But also,
Maybe
Ellie Kildun
Peltier.
had a killer game.
Ali Kildun won that game for England.
Yeah.
It's actually quite hard.
For me, it was Peltier. I think it's the best game of her career.
Yeah, I'm leaning. Yeah, I am leaning towards Peltier, to be honest.
I'm going to give it to Peltier purely because that was the best game Peltier has ever played. It will probably be the best game Peltier ever plays. However, that was like a standard Sophie de Goate performance.
Yeah.
I have seen her play
honestly,
better.
Yeah, that's kind of why it didn't jump to mind first.
So even though they're
Oh my
like
God.
relatively equal, it was like
Right,
the best
exactly.
Peltier has ever played, and it's like normal Sophie game.
Yeah, it's just a normal
We've
like.
talked about it, like we talked about it before. Yeah, like at your job, you always have to make sure that you don't like do too good a job, otherwise they'll expect you to do it all the time. Right. So Sophie, unfortunately, gotta step it up. You gotta be better than the other Sophie de Goate.
You made your conversions. You almost outrun Portia Woodman-Whitcliffe, and you scored a try. You did a bunch of other
Okay.
stuff. You had turnovers.
You
need to
topped a
do
bunch of
something.
stats.
Yeah.
She missed a couple of conversions though, didn't she?
Oh,
Yeah. I will
oh,
say.
Come on, she's not getting it.
what a failure.
So the first one, I will defend Sophie de Goate here because I don't do that enough already.
Never.
She couldn't
no
get
Sophie
the
de Goate
ball.
apologists on this pod.
She
It
couldn't
was
get the
very
ball.
close.
What?
Yeah, it was very
No.
close to
So
the...
basically, it was quite close, but she didn't have enough time to set up. So
Yeah,
basically, she was like looking for the ball, and nobody would give her the ball.
That's
So
shit.
she only had like 20 seconds to
Yeah.
actually set up the kick.
yeah.
And then the
Something like that
second
had
time
happened.
round, it was really far out.
I thought that had happened because it was really close to the time, and she's not normally like that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
As somebody who constantly never got the ball, Okay, it's kind of hard to deal with. I was also a star place kicker for my national team.
Yeah, you were.
This
Locks
was back when
kicking,
hookers
that
kicked.
means nothing. Hookers kicking. Well, Lana Skeldon.
Oh,
You did it first.
I did do it first.
I was pretty good at
Tell
kicking,
Lana
goal kicking.
Skeldon. Yeah,
Yeah,
we're not surprised.
You played halfback, Sean.
Yeah, we're not
All
surprised.
right.
And honestly, no, the whole thing is because like we don't want to go off into like our own stuff or whatever, but also like you were low-key really good, so shut up. Like I know everybody doesn't need to know, we don't need to talk about your career, but like you were good, shut up. I've heard.
I love it when people talk about when people played rugby and they call it a career.
So
It's
yes,
like-
that's cringy. Yes, that's cringy. But so my other thing is like I've slipped in tenure a few times, and I'm like, oh, that's even worse. Like, what do you want me to my stint? Playing my sentence
I think
of rugby.
I think yeah.
When I was
yeah,
in
it
jail
feels like
for
a
rugby.
sentence.
It was like a sentence. Yeah, when I was being punished for enjoying the gay sport.
Does that mean that if you're on the bench, you're in solitary confinement?
You're literally with other people.
In the shoe.
You're in Gen Pop. You're with the bin. You're with the bin juice.
But if you get a card, are you in solitary confinement?
Then you're in
Yes.
solitary. Literally the sin bin for your crimes.
I mean, if you think about it, rugby's just like Orange is the New Black. Lesbians.
It absolutely is. You're absolutely right. And that's what I was going to say. That's why Australia and New Zealand are so good at it.
Well, we've got something that people complain about apart from me saying colonial overlords.
For Julia rightfully pointing out that at one point it was a penal colony.
We were doing well until we were
always-
New
getting
Zealand
cancelled.
wasn't a penal colony. It was only Australia that was.
Yeah,
No,
Australia was.
that's true. That's
New
true.
Zealand
New Zealand
wasn't.
was again a colonial mishap.
I was going to say it was the poshos.
Was it the Pashas? Is that the deal?
Yeah, it was
actually
higher
don't know.
class.
We don't-
migrants.
It's one of the few things we don't get taught. We do get taught a lot about how we helped colonize Canada, which is true.
Yeah.
I mean, what can you do?
Well, with that, we've been a bit controversial.
Bit controversial. I didn't know if we were going to do predictions for the two matches.
Oh God, we haven't done
That was the
predictions
only
for any of
reason
the
I didn't-
others.
Oh, no, you're right. I think we tried like the first week and it was very stupid. You're right. Bad idea. I'm crossing the different podcasts that I'm on, and we have to do predictions
Canada
of the
win.
matches.
That's our prediction. I hope
Canada win is that prediction for France, New Zealand, girl.
I really
know.
can't call that one.
I'm gonna say New Zealand. Like I'm saying it in my non-ball knower voice of like I just looked up these two teams today. I just learned about them today. My guess is New Zealand.
I am going to say New Zealand because if any of the France team watch this, they'll be spurned on by that and they will want to do
Yes,
the
that's
opposite.
exactly what I want because
Yeah.
I do want France to pull it off. So yeah, I say New Zealand. For dumb American reasons.
Yep.
French. So with that, thank you so much for joining us as always. Now more than ever, please get conversations, respectful ones going in the comments. Find us on all socials. As I mentioned, there is a sale on Redbubble right now. We will hopefully remember to drop a link for the Rugby History Project. While you're there, remember to grab some stickers as well.
If you see me at the final on Saturday, I've ordered more stickers.
Also, Hattie will be there with her stash. She is not ever hard to find. Something will be animal print.
I'm going to be in full cow print.
Full cow
Amazing.
print. And again, she has big curly hair. It might be down. It might be up. I don't know. I don't run her. But
and I
if
will be
you're
with a very
head,
tall woman.
A very tall woman. And if you're a real head, you are already following Hattie herself on TikTok and she'll do an outfit check so you know what she's wearing. Because she does the fit checks and they're dope.
Yeah.
As
Are
always,
you wearing anything? Sorry, are you wearing anything Canada related?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm going to be in my Sophie de Goate top.
Brilliant.
And then a Canadian tuxedo, which is cow print.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And for people who are new, Canadian tuxedos are when you are double deniming, which is denim on top, denim
That's
on bottom.
perfect.
Does it match?
Perfect.
Doesn't have to. Doesn't have to.
Oh, this does match.
Oh, this one does. No. I'm just letting people know for the definitive purposes. They don't have to.
Yeah.
So with that, really killing this outro, as always. don't leave a comment about I don't really care. Leave a comment below about your favorite time that I fucked up an outro. Until then, thank you so much for joining us. We will be back, of course, to talk about the final, and we do have some fun things in store. We're planning them, we're trying to figure them out, so can't really tease them very well. But we're figuring them out, and if you have any ideas, I'm gonna give you one guess as to what you should do. And until then, mercifully, gonna have to let you go. Thank you so much. We will talk to you next week. Until then, go Canada and the other teams that are playing.